Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on something that seems impossibly complex, but in reality, works just like a simple machine. I'm talking about the economy. I'm here to give you my personal template for understanding how the economy works. A template that, for over 30 years, has helped me anticipate and navigate major events. It's a bit unconventional, but it's practical and it works. So let's get into it. The economic machine demystified. The economy might seem complex, but it's really just a few simple parts moving in a predictable way, driven by human nature. These parts create three main forces that propel the economy forward. Productivity, growth, the short-term debt cycle, the long-term debt cycle. We'll break down each of these, then show you how they all stack up to give you a clear picture of where we are and where we're headed. It all starts with the simplest part of the economy, a transaction, the building block. You make transactions every single day, every time you buy something. A transaction is a simple exchange. A buyer gives a seller money or credit for goods, services, or financial assets. Think of it this way. Total spending equals money plus credit. And that's it, that's a transaction. It's the engine, the building block of the entire economic machine. All cycles and forces within the economy are driven by these simple transactions. A market is just a group of all the buyers and all the sellers making transactions for the same thing. You've got a car market, a stock market, a coffee market, and so on. The entire economy is just the sum of all the transactions in all of its markets. It's that simple. The all-powerful force of credit. People, businesses, banks, and governments all make transactions, but the single most important player is the central bank, because it controls the amount of money and credit in the economy. It does this by influencing interest rates and printing new money. I want you to pay close attention to credit. It is, by far, the most important and most misunderstood part of the economy. It's also the biggest and most volatile part. When you borrow money, you get to increase your spending. And remember, spending drives the economy because one person's spending is always another person's income. When you spend more, someone else earns more. Their increased income makes them more creditworthy, which means lenders are more willing to lend them money. This creates a self-reinforcing loop. Increased income allows for increased borrowing, which leads to increased spending, which boosts someone else's income, and so on. This is what creates economic growth and the cycles. The three forces that drive the economy. Now let's look at the three main forces, starting with the foundation. 1. Productivity growth. Over time, we learn, innovate, and work harder. This accumulated knowledge and effort raises our living standards, and we call this productivity growth. The more productive we are, the more we can produce, and the more we can earn. Productivity matters most in the long run. It's the slow, steady upward march of the economy. 2. The short-term debt cycle. While productivity is the slow, steady climb, debt is the fast, volatile part. It allows us to consume more than we produce when we get it, and forces us to consume less than we produce when we pay it back. Think of borrowing as pulling spending forward. To buy something you can't afford right now, you borrow from your future self. This means that in the future, you'll have to spend less than you make to pay it back. This dynamic creates a cycle. This short-term cycle, which typically lasts 5 to 8 years, is controlled by the central bank. Expansion. When credit is easily available, people borrow and spend more. This drives up spending and incomes, causing prices to rise. We call this inflation. Recession. When prices get too high, the central bank raises interest rates. Borrowing becomes more expensive, so people spend less. This causes incomes to drop and prices to fall. We call this deflation, and the economy contracts into a recession. Recovery. If the recession gets too bad, the central bank lowers interest rates to make borrowing cheaper. and the cycle begins all over again. This cycle happens over and over, but with one key difference. The top and bottom of each cycle finish with more debt than the one before. Why? Because it's human nature to borrow and spend more instead of paying back debt. This leads us to the biggest cycle of all. 3. The long-term debt cycle. Over decades, debts rise faster than incomes, creating the long-term debt cycle. This cycle lasts about 75 to 100 years. In this phase, people are more and more in debt, but lenders keep lending because everyone believes things are going great. Incomes are rising, asset values are soaring, and people feel wealthy. This is the bubble phase. But this can't continue forever. Eventually, debt payments become too big. People are forced to cut spending, incomes fall, and the entire self-reinforcing process reverses itself. This is the long-term debt peak. For the US, this happened in 1929 and again in 2008. When the long-term debt peak hits, the economy enters a deleveraging. It's a painful period where debt burdens have simply become too big to be relieved by lower interest rates. Here's what happens in a deleveraging. People cut spending. Incomes fall. Credit disappears. Asset prices drop, and the stock market crashes. Banks get squeezed. Unemployment rises, and social tensions increase. This looks like a recession, but it's different. In a deleveraging, interest rates have already been lowered to zero and can't be lowered any further. The solution requires 4 things to happen. Austerity, people and governments cut spending, but this can backfire, causing incomes to fall faster than debts are paid off, making the debt burden worse. Debt reduction, debts are reduced through defaults and restructurings. Lenders have to accept getting paid back less or over a longer time. This is also deflationary and painful. Wealth redistribution, governments, seeing their tax revenue plummet, naturally raise taxes on the wealthy who are resented by the poor. This can lead to social and political tensions. Printing new money. The central bank is forced to print new money out of thin air. Unlike the other 3 options, this is inflationary and stimulative. The central bank uses this new money to buy financial assets and government bonds. By lending to the government, it allows the government to run a deficit, increase spending, and put money directly in the hands of the people. This increases incomes and helps lower the total debt burden. The beautiful deleveraging. A deleveraging can be ugly, but it can also be a beautiful deleveraging. A beautiful deleveraging is achieved when policymakers use the right mix of the 4 solutions. They balance the deflationary tactics, cutting spending, reducing debt, with the inflationary ones, printing money. The key is to print enough money to offset the disappearance of credit, but not so much that you cause unacceptably high inflation. If done correctly, debts decline relative to income, economic growth is positive, and inflation isn't a problem. It can take roughly a decade for debt burdens to fall and economic activity to get back to normal, hence the term lost decade. 3 rules of thumb. This template isn't perfect, but by laying the short-term cycle on top of the long-term cycle, and then on top of the productivity growth line, you get a powerful tool for understanding the economy. Here are the 3 rules I want you to take away. Don't have debt rise faster than income. Your debt burden will eventually crush you. Don't have income rise faster than productivity. You'll become uncompetitive. Do all you can to raise your productivity. In the long run, that's what matters most. This simple advice applies to you and to policymakers alike. All right, we've laid out the entire game plan. We've got the maps, but let's talk about the one thing that trips everyone up: patience. You want results now? We all do, but please don't rush your dreams. They are not fast food. True, lasting success is like planting a mighty oak. You put the effort in today, and you have to let the earth do its work. You water it, you tend to it, and you trust the silent, necessary slowness. That's how you build unshakable strength, not overnight, but through consistent, steady growth. Every single time you choose the plan over the impulse, every little effort you make, that's not a moment of struggle, that's your root system deepening. That is your foundation becoming something rock solid that can weather any storm. When the frustration hits and those big rewards aren't popping up instantly, I need you to remember this. Success doesn't arrive like a sudden light switch. It comes in like the rising sun. You see the faint glow first, then the brilliant colors, and finally, the full, radiant power. Give yourself that time. Give yourself grace. Trust the process you built far more than you trust that frantic feeling to rush. The deep peace you're truly looking for, it's never waiting for you at the finish line. It is found right now in the consistent, intentional effort you put in today. You are playing the smart, long game, and I promise you are building something magnificent. If this message resonated with you, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to join the community that's building their powerful future one step at a time. Until next time, keep nurturing your vision.